Hey there, welcome to Technability. I'm Berge. What we have here is an HTC One on the right hand side, and of course the Apple iPhone 5S on the left hand side. We're going to go ahead and do a two-part comparison here, so this would be part one. We're going to cover the basics in terms of hardware, specs, and then in the software, but for the most part we're going to cover as much as we can in this video because I do want to make it as comprehensive and detailed as possible. So to do that, it's going to seep into two parts. So in any case, just to get started, obviously you have the Apple iPhone 5S, which was just released. It's got an A7 64-bit processor. It's got an 8 megapixel camera that has a wider lens for better low light imagery. You have the touch sensor ID on the front. And of course you have the same design and dual speakers that you get with the iPhone 5. Let's just go ahead and look at the design here. You can see the front-facing camera, touch sensor ID, which we'll get into. You got the dual speakers on the bottom with the 3.5mm headphone jack and the lightning port. You have the SIM card tray right there. You have the volume rockers in the vibrate mode, and of course you have the power button. If you look at the back of the device, you have the silver. You have the logo on the bottom, iPhone logo. It's just kind of printed on, but you can kind of feel it if you put your finger over it. You have the glass top, glass bottom white, which of course also doubles up as an antenna. You have the camera and the dual LED flash. Now there's a gold version and there's a black stealth gray or space gray, space gray version, which is a little bit lighter than the iPhone 5 black. So it's a nice color. I'm a fan of the black one, but I went ahead with the white one because I do have a black iPhone 5. And I do like the whole silver thing, and I'll go ahead and showcase that on the HTC One right here, which you could see has a 4.7-inch display, and we'll get into display quality in a minute. You could see the dual front-facing boom sound speakers, which is fantastic, and that's something that's kind of like, well, wow, finally they put dual front-facing speakers, which in a way was almost common sense if you think about it. And you have the front-facing camera, you have the volume rockers, which do tend to get worn out a little bit if you put certain bumpers on it, SIM card tray, you have the micro USB port down there, you have the power button, which doubles up as an infrared port right up there, and the 3.5mm headphone jack, and you have the back, which is again unibody metal. You have the HTC logo carved in, Beats Audio, and you have the antennas up top and down bottom with the 4 ultra pixel camera as well as its flash. Again, the whole thing with the 4 ultra pixel is that it gets better, it has better low light imagery, plus it takes wider shots. So that's the HTC One. Of course, you have the chamfered metal edges, which you also do on the iPhone 5 and iPhone 5S. Now, in terms of screen quality, the iPhone is a 4-inch 1136 by 640 resolution display, rendering 326 pixels per inch. It's called Retina, if you want to be technical with it, and that's been around since the iPhone 4, but with the iPhone 5 and the 5S, they upped the screen to 4 inches. Now, with the HTC One, you have a 4.7-inch 1080p Super LCD IPS display. It's rendering 468 pixels per inch because, again, it's a full 1080p, and that's basically is phenomenal, 468 pixels per inch. If you really look close up on this display, you're going to be hard pressed to notice any pixels. It's very clean, very clear. It's crisp, text is crisp, the icons are crisp, everything is just super good looking in terms of its quality. Just go ahead and move the camera here to get that shadow out of the way. Alright, so everything is good in terms of its quality, no complaints here. We really do love the HTC One's display. The viewing angles are fantastic as well. Both displays are at 100% right here. So the viewing angles are good. The display quality is good. It does look like it's painted on the display, which is really nice. Now, of course, with the iPhone, you, of course, at the same time, you have a IPS LCD display, which, again, beautiful viewing angles. It looks like it's painted on. Absolutely nice in every aspect. In terms of viewing in direct sunlight, the edge does go to the iPhone because it has a better lux rating, which is basically how well the screen performs under direct sunlight. So it's a very, very good screen, and I'm a big fan of LCD displays over AMOLED, only because I feel like it's a little bit more responsive to the touch, has better viewing angles, looks like it's painted on a little bit more than what AMOLED displays look like, though AMOLED displays do have beautiful color contrast and vibrancy, so you have to give that to them. But you can see it's super smooth, everything is fluid to my touch, there's no stutter, there's no lag. Of course, that's due to the A7 64-bit processor, but it's just overall, the iPhone has always been a very, very responsive device, and the iPhone 5S is no exception. Now here with the HTC One, again, you could see responsiveness is perfect, fluid to your touch, immediate. I can go to the app drawer right here, I can just swipe up and down. It's fast. I mean, I'm basically just demonstrating how fast it is here by opening everything up. and then you could just close out of them by multitasking, which we will get into in a second. But yeah, the screen is definitely very responsive. It's fast, it's fluid. If you're looking for a comprehensive touch experience for Android, I know a lot of people complain about the quote-unquote lag, which, you know, I don't agree with for the most part, but hey, it's prevalent in some phones. This phone has none of it. I can say that with a lot of confidence. It really doesn't, and that's something that we definitely do appreciate with what HTC has done with HTC Sense. They haven't made it too bloated. They haven't put too many gimmicks on it. It's got just the right amount of features to satiate users and consumers' needs, and it's something that we, again, really do like in terms of everything that's currently loaded on the device. You can see how the backgrounds look beautiful. Again, crisp, beautiful backgrounds. Obviously, again, because it's a 1080p display on 4.7 inches. So what else would you expect? All right, now basically to get into the software. So you have Android 4.3 running on this, which would be 4.3 with Sense 5. This is a custom ROM. It's called Android Revolution HD, but it does take everything that is available on HTC Sense and loads it onto 4.3. And over here you have iOS 7, which is the latest build that just got pushed out for T-Mobile users, 7.0.1. There are a few bug fixes that Apple has to resolve, which they will, but for the most part, iOS 7, it's complete. It's a complete OS. It's been out for a while. I've done plenty of beta videos, but this is the real deal. It's complete. So, of course, they're two fundamentally different OSs, but in many ways they're the same. And I say that because, you know, for the most part, they could do the same thing. iOS and Android can almost do the same thing. I mean, sans maybe NFC and all, you know, other features like that, but for the most part, they do the same thing. You can see both of them have that whole minimal feel. Android has no or very little gradients, skeuomorphics, and shadows, and iOS ditched that with, or Apple ditched that with iOS 6 and went with the minimal look with the utilitarian icons and whatnot. So less skeuomorphism, less you know, emphasis on shadows, gradients, and just the whole graphics, and more of a minimal look. And you can see that Pandora updated their icon to match that whole theme. So it's something that developers are going to have to eventually do. And of course, with future updates of iOS 7, we'll see some other additions and whatnot. And of course, same thing with Android. You have 4.4 KitKat, which will be released on the next Nexus. All right, so let's get into software here. Before we do anything, let's go ahead and look at both lock screens, which are very different because one has a fingerprint scanner and the other one has shortcuts. So you can see right here, I could just put one of these up and it's going to actually open that specific app for me. You can see browser's open. And you do have access to the notification center as well as the quick settings panel, so that's there. And it's just a very, very nice, simple lock screen. Alright, so you don't see the lock screen widgets here, but it's a very simple lock screen. You can also just take this lock button, swipe it up, and it's going to unlock the display. Now with iOS, on the iPhone 5S, you do have access to the control center. You have access to the notification center, which you could swipe over to check your all tab, miss tab. That's the gesture-based system that's consistent across the board on the OS. And you have access to the camera. You can see, there's the camera. Let's just go ahead and do that again here. You can see if you bounce it, I'll open it for you. Now see, the thing is, for the most part, there's a few bugs here with Control Center. So you can access the camera and actually access a user's photos and whatnot without having to actually unlock the screen. So that's an issue that they're looking into. There's also a bug where you can do an emergency call and actually dial someone out through the lock screen. Another issue that Apple said that they're going to send a patch to resolve. But yeah, you know, you didn't have the ability to access the notification center with previous iterations of iOS 6 and whatnot. So now you do, and of course the control center as well, which you could play music on. If you have music playing right here, you also have access to that on the control center. So that's nice. And again, if you just swipe your finger over to the right, you can unlock it either with a pin or without a pin, or you could just do the whole Touch ID sensor, which is set up by going to settings, assuming you haven't set it up by when you first start up the device. If you go here, just put my password. Alright, you can see there's the feature, there's a fingerprint setting right there, so you can add various different fingerprints. Alright, so it's very comprehensive. So if I go to, you know, whatever, let's delete fingerprint 5. Let's add a fingerprint, so you can add up to 5 fingerprints. So if I was to just, you know, hold it, you can see how that works. And you got to constantly do this, and it'll eventually get your fingerprint. And you know, that's pretty much that. And yeah, the HTC One Max is rumored to have a fingerprint on the back of the device. So check out technability.com. We got a bunch of images of the HTC One Max and latest rumors. Alright, so you can see if you're not doing it right, it'll tell you. Alright, let's exit out of here. Okay. Alright, exit out of there. And to show you guys here, if I put a finger that doesn't work, it'll say try again, but if I put a finger that does work, it'll unlock it. So it's cool. I find myself using it more than I thought I would, to be quite honest with you. I thought at first, I'm like, that's a gimmick. Who needs that? But I use it. I mean, it's cool because like even if you just lock the screen, right, and you unlock the display with your finger on it, it'll unlock it automatically. So see that? That's something that I think is pretty cool. And it also doubles up as like an app purchase. So if you're in the App Store and you're purchasing an app, as opposed to putting your password, you could just put your fingerprint. So it's convenient. It's cool. Is it necessary? We'll let you decide. All right, let's go to the settings here on both apps. You can see their respective settings. Now, HTC has that whole rubber band effect, and Apple has their trademarked inertia effect. And again, you can see the gesture-based system is consistent across the board. And with Android, obviously, you have the home button down here and the back button with the HTC logo. The home button is customizable now with 4.2 and above with Sense 5. You can see Google Now is just pulled up. So again, if I just swipe up, and other custom ROMs do let you customize the HTC logo in the middle, but in terms of stock, you cannot. Now, of course, with the iPhone, it's either gesture-based or the center home button. You can see the various different settings. They're both colorful, so they're both going for that whole colorful theme. And you know, I mean, I've heard people complain about Android settings, but I really don't find them as complicated as people like to presume as they are. But with iOS, I think they're pretty much the same thing. I mean, it's just obviously worded different, located in different areas. Like you got brightness and wallpaper. Here you got personalize, which takes you to all the lock screen and wallpaper options. And you can just see if I go to wallpaper here, you can see the various different stills that now come with iOS 7. Alright, you can see HTC's wallpapers. So there's HTC's various wallpapers. Alright, so you can see how that works right there. And you can set it and whatnot. So let's go back. And of course, you also have what they call dynamic wallpapers, which I call live wallpapers, here on the HTC, or here on the Apple iPhone 5S, as well as the HTC One. You got something that's very similar here, right? You got this whole, I guess, dynamic here, but phase beam here, and they look very similar, don't they? You can see in terms of the wallpaper, they both look very similar because they are very similar. Alright, that's dynamic wallpaper. Hey, I call it phase beam, but it is what it is. You can call it whatever you want. You call it the purple bubbles that are going around in circles. But in any case, you can see it's a little bit lighter on the iPhone. It's a little bit darker on the Android. I prefer darker wallpapers, but with an white iPhone, I presumed, okay, I'd try a light wallpaper just to see how I like it, because the thing is with iOS 7 is that when you input light wallpaper, the text will actually turn black. You can see right here the text is white. So if I was to go here and I was to go to this image right here, okay, I can use this wallpaper, set both, and you can see the text is now black. So it actually changes the text for you, which is a nice little feature. And you know, again, it's because you have very, very light wallpaper. Android doesn't do that, but the thing with Android is that the icons tend to be smaller at times, and there's so many different customization options and custom launchers where you could do various different features, or you could do various different changes to your icons and fonts and whatnot. So it's, again, even though it's not there natively, there are custom launchers that you could download in the Play Store. Now, speaking of the Play Store, if we go here to the App Store and the Play Store, now if there's one thing that I'm not particularly a fan of here with the App Store, I'll show you. Now, I like the lists. Okay, I like the ability to basically scroll down and see all the apps. You can see multiple apps in one screen. With iOS, you can only see one and maybe a little bit more of the second app right down the right, unless you just keep swiping over. I'm not a fan of that. The iPad has the whole list thing, which is cool. But this I'm definitely not a fan of. I wish they made it, or they kept it how it was, which was the list method with prior iterations of the iTunes App Store. But again, for the most part, it's not that big of a deal. You can see here, if you go to top charts, you get it in a list. But the search is not in a list. So if you search something, it's going to be like this. I guess really, if you're searching something, you do want something specific. So that could be what it is. I mean, at least you have the list here on top charts and you know, featured and whatnot. not, you can just swipe over. But I do like Android's App Store method of doing things better. It's a little bit more consistent, I think. But again, that's to each their own. It's on the eye of the beholder. Alright, so that's the App Store. We're going to go ahead and cover a few other things here. Before we do, let's take a look at their respective galleries. Okay, so you could see the gallery here and the gallery here. Alright, now this is very cool with iOS. You could just kind of pinch in the picture and rotate it around and do all these little things right here. I don't know what the point of that is, but hey, it's there. If you go to HTC Sense right here, you can see the image. If you click on it, you have various different options down here, including edit. So edit will allow you to edit the various pictures, picture effects, picture frames. You could retouch it. You could transform it by, you can see if you go to transform, I can rotate the image. Okay, let's cancel that. You can do all sorts of different features, and you could save it, or you could just simply go back. And you could share it, and third-party apps do sync in this, which is cool. Obviously, if you download various different apps, it will sync in the sharing options, and you could delete it, you can highlight it, and you can even just go directly to the camera from here. Now with iOS, it's kind of the same thing. Now you have edit feature right up here with various different filters, and you also have the red eye reduction, you have the transform, crop, etc. You have the auto enhance, so we cancel that, and then you also have the various sharing options right here, and this is what they give you. So there's no third-party app integration here. You get messages, mail, Twitter, Facebook, Flickr, and you can do multiple images at once if you want. You also have AirDrop, which is a new iOS 7 feature. You can use it as wallpaper, sign to contact, AirPlay, slideshow, etc. And the cool thing is you can also access the notification and control center as you're doing that. And here with Android, the thing is, if I'm in the image, I cannot access the notification center. And that's kind of works throughout the OS, where you can't access the notification center in certain apps. In other apps, you could. Whereas with iOS, they've allowed you to access the notification and the control center in basically almost every single app across the board. All right, we're on the same Wi-Fi networks here. Let's go ahead and do a speed test. You can see pinch zoom while it's loading. Smooth on both. Rotate around as I'm pinching. You can see here on the HTC One, text is crisp, text is clear. I think the iPhone 5 is still loading, but you can see again, same. Text is crisp, pinch zoom. Alright, scrolling, no checkerboarding. Scrolling, definitely no checkerboarding there either. And of course, because it's a bigger screen, you got more content in one screen. But, you know, it depends on the website as well, if the website renders a certain way and whatnot. But you could see the iPhone's done loading and the HTC One is done loading. So they're both done loading, just scrolling through them. And you know, you have the inertia effect here on iOS. You don't have that here with Android. Some of them give you that blue over scroll effect. Okay, you can see. And if you look at the tabs here, right, you can see the various different tabs. This is the HTC Sense tab, so you can add a tab, you can add an incognito tab, you can X out. Alright, so here it's the same thing. You can add a tab, and I could swipe away the tab if I don't want it. You also have incognito tab, and you also have reader mode. Alright, so let's go back here. X out, go back. Alright, you can see reader mode right here on iOS 7. Alright, so that's how reader mode works. Takes the video that I embedded, the images, and basically puts it in one screen, scaled screen here. Alright, you can also click on a link while you're in reader mode and it takes you to the various different links. You can see here as well if I'm in an article. Alright, so click right there and you have their reader mode. You could pinch into their reader mode, which you can't on iOS, but you can see right here, so reader mode, you can copy and paste, or copy and paste text, or cut text. You can also click on a link and same thing, it'll take you to that various article. And again, if I want to close out, just do that, swipe away, little X, closed out. Now the tabs are very similar to what you have here with Chrome. What Chrome has been doing for quite a while. If you look at the tabs here. Okay, so let's go ahead. You can see the various different tabs on Chrome. You can see the tabs here on iOS. You can just swipe them away, obviously. Okay, you can swipe them away any way you'd like on Android. with iOS, if you swipe over that way, nothing happens. You gotta actually just swipe it over to close it by doing that, or you can push the little X at the same time. Okay, so let's go ahead and actually take a look at their messaging apps. I'm gonna go ahead and just move them out of the way for a second here. Okay, you can see their respective messaging apps. Transparent keyboard. You know, this is the HTC Black keyboard. It also has swipe features. You know, you can see, hey, how are you today? Hey, how are you today? You can see how that looks right there and how that works. I put, hey, how ate today. All right, let's go ahead and check out the microphone, or check out voice detection. Hey, how are you today? What's going on? Do you think that anything nice is happening or anything fun is happening today? Because the weather is beautiful here in Los Angeles. Definitely some of the nicest weather I've seen all year. It's not hot, it's not too cold, it's actually perfect. Nice beach weather. Maybe we could head out to Malibu. But that's really all up to you and whether you want to go. Alright, so let me know, give me a call, and we'll talk. You can reach me on technability.com, which is likely not going to be able to spell technability right. It's spelled technicality, close enough. Thank you there. Alright, you can see that the iPhone typed it after I had completed, whereas the Android, excuse me, the HTC One is still typing as I speak, which is really cool. I love that. I love that feature, that it continuously goes as I'm talking. And of course you can select all, select a certain amount of text, copy it, cut it, paste it. You can do the same here with the HTC One. Let's just go ahead and, there you go, see? Cut, paste, etc. And again, you do have the gesture based here if you're in a message, and you also have the ability to see the timestamp, which is really cool. I'll show you guys how that works. There you can see the timestamp here on messages now. Okay. And you could change the color scheme here with the messages on, and of course you got the timestamps directly on there with the HTC, but you can actually change the color scheme of the messages on the HTC One. So if you want like a whiter background or a different color background, they have various different themes in the messages application, so that's a cool thing right there. Alright, so let's go ahead and take a look at the weather app. Now, I've always said that the weather app on iOS 7 is very similar to what HTC offers with their weather app. Alright, let's just go ahead and see. They have that whole nice animation thing going on, which is cool, and if you just swipe down you could refresh. If you swipe over, you could see different types of, you could do it hourly, you could do it by forecast. Here you could just swipe over and get different cities. Alright, so the weather app, and you can access the notification center and the control center while in here, and the same with Android or the HTC Sense, you can see that. Alright, and the quick settings aren't customizable on Sense, but there are custom ROMs where it is customizable. Alright, so taking a look back at the control center and the quick settings, you can see the various different options that you get. Again, with some custom ROMs you can customize this with HTC Sense, and most overlays you can't. But you can see with iOS it's the same thing. You can't customize it. You get what they give you, which it's convenient. But you know, me personally, I'm not a big fan of the calculator being down there, but it's there. You got the camera as well. You got Wi-Fi, airplane mode, Bluetooth, music, and brightness. And of course with Android you have various different toggles there as well. Now if you were talking about a Galaxy S4, this thing is long, right? Because you got a lot of different features and gimmicks there. But HTC, even though they put a lot of features in the One, like blink feed and Zoe and whatnot, they still kept it very simple. Alright, so that's basically part one of this comparison video. Again, we will get into part two, and we will get into all the other features that we haven't covered, such as camera, video quality, and go through all of that, and everything else in between. For now, we've passed the 20-minute mark, which I didn't expect to do, but in any case, this is the HTC One, this is the iPhone 5. Stay tuned for part two, which will be coming later this week. Otherwise, thank you guys for watching Technability. I'm Berge, and again, check out technability.com. We got a lot of great original content updated daily. Thank you for watching. Stay tuned for part two.